Kevin Conroy. Many of you, whether you know it or not, have heard of this man. He's an American actor and voice actor most famous for voicing the iconic DC character, Batman, in the 1992 hit show, Batman, the Animated Series. You probably grew up on one of the many spectacular shows and games that he's been a part of, from the Batman Beyond cartoon, the animated Justice League show, the Arkham video games, the Injustice fighting games, and so much more. Kevin Conroy is more than a professional and class act in the entertainment industry. He has become the physical embodiment of what Bruce Wayne and Batman would actually sound like if they were an actual person in our world. So let's take a deeper look into the life of the voice under the cowl.
What is that saying that life is what happens to you while you're busy making other plans? I never, ever planned on doing this kind of work.
Do you do it? Do you still get, do you ever get, you seem so calm and collected, right?
It's a really good mask, isn't it?
Well.
He says, what's your day job? I said, well, I do voices mostly. I knew it! He said, you're the guy who does Batman. Are you?
You know, the great thing about doing this role for so long, 28 years, has been this interaction I get to have with the fans. Because the Batman fans are amazing. They're so passionate about the character. They're so loyal to him.
Hey, Lenny, is that you? Oh God, it's him! The frickin' Bat!
Kevin Conroy, the youngest of three in an Irish Catholic family, grew up with a rough childhood. Kevin had an immense passion for theater and would deal with an overwhelming amount of obstacles in his pursuit of the arts. One of those being a seriously rocky relationship with his parents. Kevin's brother was schizophrenic and his parents were going through a rough divorce. Kevin's father, who was born in 1910, was an alcoholic for most of his life and was a mean and violent fall-down drunk, from what Kevin describes. His father was also never a fan of his son's passion for acting and thought it was insane that his son wanted to be an actor. His mother was loving, but tired and worn down from the years of a broken marriage. While Kevin was in school, his father had attempted to take his own life. Then his father had to be committed. During that time, it was only Kevin and his mother at the house, so he had to identify his father at the hospital and pick up his car from the impound, which was covered in his father's blood. Kevin's father, in spite of the judge's orders to stay away, went back to their home as soon as he was released. Being the 1970s, the police grew tired of showing up to Conroy's house and felt that it was just mere family squabbles. Kevin knew at the end of the day nobody was going to kill anybody, but that nobody should have to live with all of this constant chaos.
My father was a fall-down drunk, and he was a mean drunk, and he was a old world, very imperious man. He was very old world, old Irish, and everything had to be very formal. When we were little, we had to call him sir, stuff like that. And the fights in our house growing up were just legendary. It was like growing up in Long Day's Journey into Night. It was just this Irish drunk, crazy, fighting clan.
Kevin is open about growing up dealing with massive amounts of anxiety due to his past. His anxiety was so overwhelming that he developed seizures due to a condition known as psychomotor epilepsy, which is another term for temporal lobe seizure. This occurs in the temporal lobe of the brain, which processes your emotions and is vital for short-term memory. I imagine Kevin developing this due to an overwhelming amount of times he probably witnessed trauma-inducing moments. And all of this pressure on a growing child had to have taken a severe mental toll. He spoke of meditation as a remedy to his anxieties and would even run up to 6 miles a day trying to combat his anxiety. This would force him to move in with a family friend when he was 16, so he could finish high school, while his mother moved in with her sister in upstate New York. Conroy stated that his father once showed up to a play of his, but never said anything about his performance. He said that his father just wanted to meet Brian Bedford, the star of the play. Kevin's father met Brian after the premiere, and then went home. Fellow actor Brian Bedford, after their premiere of their stage hit Death Trap, consulted Kevin about his father. He told Kevin the importance of having a connection with your father before they die, even if you had a rough past with them. It would be shortly before his father's death, when Kevin was 30 years old, that they would reconcile. Kevin would even take care of his father during his final years. Even with their difficult relationship, he would be by both his parents' side at their time of death, putting all of the pain and suffering aside so they could be with their youngest son in their final moments. One of the things that Kevin noted about the passing of his father was his last words. He said that his father mumbled, "The great Conroy," in a remorseful manner before passing on. He said that this would be the closest moment he had with his father, because he learned that your last words should never express that you've wasted your life. Conroy moved to New York City in 1973, where he would attend the Juilliard School's drama division on a full scholarship. He studied under John Houseman, and while there, he roomed with Robin Williams, and they would even be in the same drama group together along with Kelsey Grammer, aka The Beast. Can you imagine what it must have been like to room with Robin Williams, the Robin Williams? While doing a little bit of digging, I saw on a podcast with Michael Rosenbaum, Kevin said that living with Robin Williams was a bit of a challenge at times because he never turned off the performer in himself. And that to me is kind of hilarious. But anyway, Kevin Conroy was going to originally dorm with Christopher Reeve, the original Superman, but he said that it was far too expensive. Can you imagine? Far too expensive for Bruce Wayne? Come on, get out of here. Kevin Conroy would bless our television screens by starring in the 1985 film The Covenant and a soap opera called Search for Tomorrow, the show Dynasty, and would frequently appear as a regular on the show O'Hara. Let's not forget The Commander on Tour of Duty, where Kevin Conroy played the captain to the main company of the show. He would also make appearances on hit shows like Cheers, Matlock, and Murphy Brown. Needless to say, Conroy isn't only an amazing voice actor, but he is a straight-up timeless, classic actor, someone who would be the very essence of Broadway theater performance. This would only make his portrayal of Batman even more realistic, relatable, and authentic. One of Kevin Conroy's most memorable moments on stage was a fight he had gotten into with his fellow actor, Brian Bedford. Although he had given Kevin some heartfelt advice about his father, Kevin spoke about how arrogant and menacing Bedford often was towards other actors he had to share the stage with. The two actors would get into an actual physical confrontation on stage after Bedford almost cut Conroy's eye with a metal spine of a rolled-up script after hitting Conroy in the face mid-play. This would cause them to drift apart as life went on, but Kevin never forgot their famous fight. You could say our beloved voice of Batman never stood for being bullied.
And I think it's because of all the superheroes, he's the only one who doesn't have any superpowers. He's a man. He can't fly, he can't see through walls. He only has his body and his mind to serve him on his mission. He's more of a detective. They call him the Great Detective. And his mission is to serve the community, to heal the world, to rid it of evil. It's such a noble cause. That's what people love about him, the nobility of his cause. They also love his tenacity, the fact that he never, ever, ever gives up. It's like he can't give up. And those are qualities we can all aspire to. Because he's human. He doesn't have any superpowers he's relying on. He only has his physical strength and his mind, his intellect. And if he can do it, we can do it.
It wasn't until 1992 where he would land the role as Batman and Bruce Wayne on Batman the Animated Series created by Bruce Timm. Bruce Timm is responsible for your favorite animated shows such as Freakazoid, Pinky and the Brain, and The Animaniacs. And that's not including the endless catalog of DC animated projects. His deep commanding voice and his theatric performance would transcend and bring a new level of depth to the character, where the casting directors and Bruce Timm himself would say they had to have Conroy as Batman. He was the very first voice actor to change the voice tone between Batman and Bruce Wayne, From a cool and charismatic billionaire to the voice of a dark and gritty vigilante, Kevin Conroy perfectly embodied the way both personas would sound in their own cadence. The only other known portrayer of Batman to somewhat do this at the time was Michael Keaton in the 1980s Tim Burton films. His ability to be so creative yet diverse in his delivery is astounding. The role of Batman had hundreds of people auditioning, from film and television actors to even other voice actors, but it was Kevin's raw stage experience that gave the reading a tone nobody else gave it before. He would say himself that his experience doing theater is what prepared him to deliver the voice of both Batman and Bruce Wayne. Kevin Conroy, being the master thespian he is, based his dual voice performance on Leslie Howard in the old black and white film The Scarlet Pimpernel, which is a British film made in 1934 about an 18th century aristocrat who leads a double life, posing as an evil aristocrat in a covert effort to rescue French noblemen who have been captured and made prisoners. Conroy's performance as Batman has become the utmost definitive interpretation of the hero itself. It's extremely unlikely at this point that anyone in the world doesn't know who Batman is, but whether you know the character or not, the unmatched performance of Conroy's voice is the voice you would imagine in your head if you thought about the Caped Crusader. This is a bit ironic because Kevin originally had no clue about Batman other than the silly TV show from the 1960s starring Adam West. He went into the audition, dare I say, blind as a bat, and nailed the role. Even with that being the case, Bruce Timm, the head producer of the animated series, knew he had his Batman as soon as he heard Kevin. It would be years later we would finally see Kevin Conroy portray Bruce Wayne on the silver screen in the Batwoman episode of Arrowverse crossover Crisis on Infinite Earths. This was his first and only live-action performance of Batman and Bruce Wayne, and my adult self couldn't have been happier to see that. I personally was so thrilled, and I hoped it was going to open the doors for a potential live-action movie of Batman Beyond, where Kevin could maybe play an older Bruce guiding Terry McGinnis. But one can only dream. In 2016, Kevin Conroy revealed a very personal matter to the world. In an interview with the New York Times, during the hype of the animated adaptation of The Killing Joke, he would come out to the world as a gay man, and would even write a short comic for the 2022 DC Comics Pride anthology titled Finding Batman. The story of Finding Batman is a beautiful and very personal story of Kevin Conroy that I didn't have the pleasure of reading until after he had passed. This gave me a completely new insight into his role as Batman. It almost made you feel that Conroy was born to play the Caped Crusader, as he could relate to the feeling of wearing a mask in society, hiding who you truly were from the world, all while trying to be someone great and living up to the full potential you yourself knew you had. Kevin had made an effort to conceal his sexuality for most of his career and personal life. He had spoke about losing multiple acting jobs due to his sexual orientation, which caused him to be more withdrawn from letting people know this. It's such a shame that people will judge such an amazing person for such a trivial thing as that. I wonder how they feel knowing they were being a bigot towards one of the greatest Batman and Bruce Wayne there ever was. This would make him even more befitting for the role, as both he and Bruce Wayne felt they had to hide themselves, even from those closest to them. Kevin wasn't only giving the role of Batman 100%, but he gave 100% to the fans of Batman as well. During the tragedy of September 11th in New York City, Conroy would volunteer as a cook in various shelters and would participate in relief efforts for citizens affected by 9/11. One of his most fond memories was the reaction of emergency service workers to his presence. They stood in awe, as the voice of Batman was here cooking for the people in need. Conroy would then proudly bellow out the famous lines we all know and love.
The first week after the attack, and there had been like just this somber sadness. And you hear him go, guys, you're not gonna believe who's been cooking your dinners. It's Batman. There's this long silence and you hear, make him prove it. So I thought, oh, this is good. So I'm in the back kitchen and I do from the back kitchen, I am vengeance. I am the night. I am Batman.
Everyone would cheer and applaud, and the emergency workers would even talk about how they loved Batman the Animated Series in the 1990s. The whole experience, Kevin stated, left him extremely humbled and deeply flattered by the reaction, but it taught him just how much the character and performance he gave it meant to the people.
You know what's been really interesting for me about doing this role for so long? Aside from playing the dark, complicated, brooding character, and aside from
the wonderful actors I've gotten to work with. I mean, think about it. Mark Hamill, Roddy McDowall, Ephraim Zimbalist Jr., Ron Pearlman, Stacy Keach. I mean, incredible actors. But aside from all that, what's really been interesting, and I didn't expect, is this. This interaction with the audience, this kind of conversation I get to have, because the fans are so passionate about the character. And I didn't really realize that when I started. I didn't know that there was this special connection between the fans and Batman. I had to learn about that. And it's not like that, believe me, for Superman or Wonder Woman or The Flash. It is different with Batman. And I think the reason is that because of all the superheroes, Batman is the only one who's actually not a superhero. There is nothing supernatural about him. He can't fly, he can't see through walls, he can't bend metal. He's a man. He's a human being. He's like you and me. In fact, he's a very flawed man. And he knows he's flawed. He's been damaged by life. And we all get damaged by life. So it makes Batman that much more relatable for us because he's so much like us in a way. What distinguishes him is that no matter what life throws at him, no matter what crisis, challenge, failure, disappointment, he doesn't let it defeat him.
Kevin has even fought for the right to attend conventions for the fans. He was once asked by the press about future Arkham games. Conroy thought they meant the Arkham Knight and was confused that it had already been announced so soon. The press was actually referring to Arkham Origins, which Kevin isn't a part of, as WB Games Montreal wanted to go for a younger Batman and felt Kevin was prime Batman. This caused the vice president of Warner Bros. Games to call Kevin and say he was in serious breach of contract. At the threat of not using him as Batman anymore, Kevin agreed to attend future conventions under the temporary supervision of a minder, someone that would make subtle note to Kevin when he was spilling too many bat beans. This would only be temporary, but have Kevin asking, "What? Am I in kindergarten?" This shows how dedicated to the fans Kevin is, as he still wanted to let fans have that connection with the character, wanting them to still have the opportunity that I did not have, which was to meet the Batman. I'm sure meeting him changed people's lives just as much as hearing him throughout all the years did. Kevin didn't just play the role of Batman amazingly. Here's a fun fact for you. He was also the fisherman in Jak and Daxter: The Precursor Legacy. And he was even a cleanup crew member from Max Payne 2. And who said Batman didn't use guns, am I right? Throughout his life, Kevin earned a number of awards and nominations for his voice acting, but all of them were for roles of Batman. The list is so long, but this is just absolutely well-earned, and there's nobody else that deserves all of these awards. He deserves a freaking bat medal. At this point, the president should have just At this point, the president should have just literally melted down, like had a blacksmith melt down a batarang and just make that a medal for him. And just make him Batman of the world, Batman of America. You know, it's really, he should have been the honorary. On November 10th, 2022, skies everywhere became more grim than the darkest nights in Gotham City. A beacon of light would shine no longer, and hope seemed further distant than ever, as Kevin Conroy would pass away from intestinal cancer at age 66. This nobleman never told anyone about his illness and kept it completely secret. A parent company, Warner Bros. Discovery, would send out a press release of his death, and waves of sadness would sweep the earth, hitting millions, including myself, with despair, as we felt we had lost our true Batman. There was a fan-made comic short, adapted by Why Not Stuff, called I Lost My Voice, that perfectly depicted how we all felt about the loss of our hero. That after this, the Batman could never and will never truly speak again. It is indeed how I felt, how I still feel. Maybe how I'll always feel. There are rumors that Diedrich Bader is Warner Brothers' go-to voice now for animated roles of Batman. He was Batman on the animated show Batman the Brave and the Bold. I feel he's an amazing actor and voice actor, but Kevin's role is not something that can be replaced or replicated. Even AI could never replicate the emotional depth and natural and seemingly effortless cadence of such a brilliant performer. Kevin Conroy will forever be Batman, eternally. That will never change, as his hard work and many efforts to flesh out the character in our world has ensured that he will forever be with us. Nobody can ever replace Kevin Conroy's voice as Batman, ever, as he lives on in our hearts and in our heads when we read Batman comics. When we play the games, we will feel more than a morsel in a game. We will now feel a bit closer to our Batman that we've lost but will never forget. For if there is a bat symbol, there is Kevin Conroy. I made this video because Kevin Conroy is one of my biggest heroes. He's the reason I wanted to be a voice actor, and if I'm being honest, it's hard for me to think about the guy without getting watery-eyed, and I never met him a day in my life. His voice as Batman would become stuck in my head as a child, motivating me and pushing me, telling me to never give up. You see, as a child, my father wasn't around. There was, however, a summer where I had an opportunity to visit him. I can't exactly remember the age, but I know I was in elementary school at the time. I couldn't wait to finally see my father in person and be a part of his life, and him be a part of mine. But long story short, things didn't go so well. I was locked in a closet for a long time without any lights. This isn't a metaphor for my sexuality, and it's not a metaphor or reference to the Christopher Nolan Bane story, so stop laughing. I would pretend not to be scared, because darkness didn't scare Batman. There were random times my father would enter the dark closet and start wailing on me for no reason. I would pretend that Kevin Conroy's Batman would be pepping me up, telling me to brace myself and get ready for the fight. I would try to fight back, but my tiny fists could do no damage. None at all. Even though I would lay defeated, Batman would be there to hold me and tell me that I did good. That I did damn good. His voice would go on to make me feel strong, confident, and even safe and protected. It would be the voice I heard, the voice I still hear, when I know I can't give up, and when I have to keep going. I never made it to any conventions. I always thought, maybe next year I'll be able to see him. Well, that day never came, and I never got to tell him how much his role meant to me. This taught me that if you want to do something, if you feel you have to go for something, you need to go ahead and do it. I hope other lifelong fans of Kevin Conroy and Batman can take something from this. And I hope to help fans of the new generation learn and understand more about the man who became the voice of vengeance in the night. I'm honored to have been a fan of his during the start, to the prime of his career, right to the very end. and eternally after. He will always be my Batman. I will leave you all with this final note, that I have a goal, a dream that I will absolutely one day make reality. I will be the next voice of Batman. Maybe not the very next in line, but I will one day voice the Dark Knight. And I will dedicate myself to the role just as Kevin Conroy did. We are all here for a reason. We are all allowed to reach for the stars. It is our right to pursue what we want. The stars I plan to reach just so happen to be over Gotham City. Thank you so much to Kevin Conroy. And to everyone watching, thank you so much. I'm Rez, and if you enjoyed the video, hit that like and subscribe, and hit that bell so you don't miss out on any future content. Stay safe in Gotham City, and until next time, you vigilantes, Robin to the Batmobile.
Oh gee willikers, oh yeah, oh gosh shucks, holy smokes, yeah, Quinn, oh man, this video was so good.
Have fun, everyone.
Am I blue? Am I blue? Yeah, they like that.
I like that.
There was a time I was her only one. Now I'm the sad and lonely one. Lonely.